Well, we continue this journey on Business Insight today. So I've already done three, four clips, just rehearsing my journey in transitioning from one job to the next one. And so we are at the stage where I realize that if I'm going to make headway in this journey, in this quest to start in a new direction, then I would need to confront all my irrational fears. Fears could be healthy because it could be an indication that I have, or you and I have risk assessed a situation and we have more incentive to be cautious. Now, where fear can be harmful is when that fear interferes with our rational processes of thinking or our logical process of thinking. In other words, where that fear prevents us from making sensible decisions. I know there are times when we might have to take risks and think outside the box, and I'm not talking about situations like that. I'm talking about a situation where we exaggerate our difficulties because we have dwelt on things, looking at them from a very pessimistic, negative perspective, that we have drowned any voices of reason, any voices of what potential we have for effective change in any given situation. And I found out that when I was no longer able to go to an office to follow a routine and to receive all that was complementary that came along with my job role, my previous job role, it sort of knocked some of my self-worth. And so, because my self-esteem was being dissipated, what self-esteem that was associated with my job role, because it was being dissipated, I found that I began to question whether I was up to the task. I began to question because after you've been to a job center and you have had to disclose very personal information, etc., you come out of that job center and you feel like, oh no, am I just somebody in search of charity? You kind of begin to think not highly of yourself. And that is something that I noticed there was the constant temptation to do because I was having second thoughts about myself. I felt really bad about myself at times. And during moments like that, it was very easy to give in to the temptation to be irrational, to embrace, open the door for fear and be irrational, exaggerate what could go wrong at the expense of what little insights and hopes that I was beginning to have. And by the way, by this time, I had received some really positive responses. I had registered with a medical recruitment company to do locum work. And I think I had even begun to do some locum work. But it wasn't on a sustained basis. Coupled with that, because I hadn't done direct patient care, hands-on clinical uh, patient care in my role as a nurse, my confidence was wavering a bit. And what I had set my sights on was this role, which I began to fulfill, but payment was going to not be there until the end of the month. And in the meantime, I needed to cover my transport expenditure, I needed to cover my daily food expenditure, etc. And so it was one constant stretch that I hadn't anticipated when I was planning the transition. And just writing out my fears and challenging them and confronting them and getting at them and saying, no, that's not going to be happening. No, my flat is not going to be repossessed. No, I'm not going to be left with no money for utilities. Just confronting those fears and starting to think that, look, I am capable of meeting these challenges. I can find a way out of these situations, and starting to develop a solution-centered approach to daily living, waking up and thinking of solutions, brainstorming solutions. That was very helpful because I didn't see myself as a victim. I saw myself as somebody who was empowered to change things, to turn the tide. And I drew from the fact that I had already proven that to myself as an employee for many years. I was an employee that was counted upon. And so I did a lot of work to sort of regain my self-esteem, to win the mental battle, to not give in to fear. So in addition to writing out things, the fears, the things that I was anxious about, writing them out, and then confronting and challenging it, I found there was a lot of power in activity. You see, what happened was, for many years, I followed a routine. I worked in the office, and there was a routine to follow, and there was constant activity. In many cases, a lot more activity than I had time for. However, this time, I found out that my activity, I discovered that my activity had been so linked to what an employer had assigned to me, or what the job role required of me, that when I wasn't in that employment, I wasn't using my skills in a structured manner. I could wake up the days just worrying, just being anxious. Of course, I went for walks and etc. But I wasn't structured, and I thought, look, it's about time I put some structure into my day. It's about time I and write, doing a lot of writing, even recording life coaching videos, contributed to that structure. Any structure was going to help, but I needed to just do a bit at a time and just improve it, constantly improve it towards an end. And do you know what? Some of that activity did not seem to be the ultimate activity that would lead to a desired end, but activity it was. And boy, oh boy, mine, oh my, it really helped me refocus. And I'll say some more about that in the next clip. Thank you for listening.